Hey there everybody, PTPOP here. All four lobes of my brain securely bound behind my back. And today, before I get started on part 3 of my most atrocious call center experience, I wanted to ask you to take a look at my books. I've got a book called Breathe, John Lennon, A Conspiracy to Murders, a book of fiction hypothesizing what could have happened if John Lennon faked his own death. And my second book I recently released about a year ago, this is called Small. This is about a guy who's in his 50s, he just lost his job and his wife through divorce, and he wants to be a kid again, and he gets his wish after he visits a strange gypsy hooker. There you have it. Please check those out. Also, check out my work on Fine Art America. You can get some of my photography there. Go to fineartamerica.com/profiles/Peter Tompkins. You can see some of my work there. You can buy my prints. You can buy t-shirts, bags, a whole variety of things. So check them out. And thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like my channel. Give it a thumbs up. The old snooter. Tell your friends about the channel. If you're still working at a call center, hang in there. It gets better once you quit. Thanks. Bye. This one guy on my team, he looked exactly like Billy Bob Thornton playing Carl in Sling Blade. I kid you not. This guy looked just like him. He didn't talk like him. He's like that. He sat like him. He everything. He was skinny like him. He had this underbite, and he just like he'd sit there and he just like, and he's like, hey. So he was one of the first people to speak to me because he spoke right. He sat right to my left, and he'd be like, hey, nice meeting you, Pete. Where are you from? I said, well, I'm originally from Cleveland. He goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, Cleveland, the Browns really suck, don't they? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're really bad. This guy was so weird, man. And he rarely spoke. He rarely said anything. And when he did speak about anything, it was always about sports. It was almost like he was a professional football savant or something. Oh my God, this guy was a freak ball. Just total freak ball. I was majorly screwed once I got on the floor. Because I had the chismosa supervisor, and she did nothing. I mean, this lady did nothing. Now, when I say did nothing, I go into a corporate environment after working in the corporate world in telecommunications. I expect a certain amount of professional decorum from the people that are my supervisors. I actually expect them to do something called supervise. I know it's an outrageous idea. Oh, I'm a supervisor. Maybe I should supervise. This lady was never at her desk. And the rumor on the floor and on our team was that she was having an affair with another man, with a man on another team. But the catch to all this is that her husband worked in the same call center. So she was married to a guy and having an affair with someone else on another team. And everybody in the whole place knew it. It was like common knowledge that she was sleeping around on her husband in the same call center. So this other Hispanic girl. Now, this is weird. This is like the frickin' frack of Hispanics or Mexicans. I don't know if Mexicans are Hispanic. I don't really care. But anyway, so the supervisor was this tiny little thing. But there was this other Mexican girl who was like 6 foot tall. And she was built like this Amazon goddess. And she was built like a linebacker. And she was always like, hey, are you going to go over there and see Billy today? Are you going to go see Billy? You're so chismosa. He's your chismosa. And they'd be like, oh, chismosa. Oh, yes, chismosa. And oh, chismosa. Oh, yes, chismosa. Oh, chismosa. Oh, yes, chismosa. And it was just like this personal joke that she was fooling around on her husband.
What is your husband going to say to you when he knows that you're over there with Billy fooling around in the stairwell? Oh, stop it, you're so chismosa.
You know, and the other guy, Carl from Sling Blade.
Chismosa. I like football. Do you like football? I think the Browns suck, but I really love the Patriots. Do you like the Patriots?
Oh my God. Talk about an asylum.
So I'm on this woman's team, and I'll never forget this. The first time she reviewed my calls with me. So she sits down with me. You have to go into her cubicle, and they record your calls. They record the the screenshots, what you're doing on the screen, and they pull up the audio of the call and the conversation you're having with the customer, and then they go through it. And they say, well, you did pretty good this call, but she did nothing. She just was like, oh, well, yeah, you do pretty good on the phone. You're supposed to go over 3 calls. They grade them. And I'll never forget, she went over these 3 calls. She goes, I do, because you're doing pretty good. Just give us some time, you'll be fine. And she didn't do anything. She didn't really tell me what I was doing right or wrong. She just kind of did a 50,000-foot overview of the calls, and that was it. So from that point forward, when you're new on the floor, you kind of panic. You get questions you don't know how to answer. And I would go over to her desk, and she didn't sit near me. She sat like behind me and down like that way, another 30 feet. So I had to get up from my desk and see if she was there, because she wouldn't answer her phone, or she wouldn't answer the text messaging system we had. So anytime I went to her desk, she wasn't there. She was never at her desk. Never. And I was with her for about 90 days, and she only did 1 call review with me, and I never got another one. So I got this new supervisor who I've alluded to in another video, and I call him the Bill Cosby supervisor. The PTPOP. He was a black guy, and he was a really well-crafted guy. He was really well put together with the polo shirts and the nice khakis and the deck shoes, and he was zipping and a bipping and a hipping and a hopping. This guy allegedly was a former United States Marine with the morals of a garbage picker or something, With the morals, I don't even know how to describe. He was horrible. He was never at work. He was always out golfing because he had seniority. He had been with the company allegedly 15 years. He went out, he left the Marine Corps and joined Verizon. Now I mentioned the Marine Corps because I hold the Marines and former Marines and current Marines in high regard. These are men and women that fight for our country and put their lives on the line for each and every one of us under outrageous circumstances, and they're supposed to be moral and honest. And this guy was a dirtbag, and I think he's a disgrace to the Corps. I'm not a Marine. I didn't join the military, but this guy was a disgrace to the Corps, and he was an abomination in the eyes of our men and women in the service. This guy was horrible. He was never at his desk. He couldn't answer any questions. He was out golfing all the time. He split our team up. We had a team of 30 people. And like on this side of the room, one side of the room was all white people. And on this side, there was all black and Hispanic. And I was sitting right on the line. So across from me was a woman, a very nice white lady. Next to me was a Hispanic guy and a black guy that tried to help me with calls. They were decent people, but the supervisor, for some reason, had divided the team into black and white. And he was always coaching the white people and writing us up. He would always put us on what's called performance improvement plans. And the lady across from me and the lady behind her and the guy behind her were always being put on performance improvement plans, which are called PIPs. The Hispanics and the blacks never were. They were making all the bonuses. They were getting all the accolades. But all of us white folk were struggling. And it seemed to be, and I was talking to these ladies about it, and they're like, yeah, it seems like he plays favorites. But they didn't want to go into too much detail. Because like I said, they get a lot of slaves in these places, people that are, committed to their families, or they're committed to, things outside of work that they can't afford to lose the job. And this guy would always happen to find the one call that we screwed up. Now, keep in mind at the time, I'm taking 80 calls a day. That's 400 calls a week. That's 1,600 calls a month. That's 19,200 calls a year. And in the few months I was with him, he always, out of the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of calls I took, he always found 1 or 2 that were just bad enough to ding me on. And I'm sorry, this is definitely something that is, he did it to all of us. It wasn't just me. I know I talked to this woman, several people, and I'm like, yes, this is what he does. And the bottom line about Verizon is that this was very corrupt, dirty, nasty environment, horrible environment. I mean, it was so stressful. They had all these metrics you had to meet. You had a talk time, I think, of 7 minutes. And the thing that caught me off guard was, and I didn't think about, was that years ago, prior to this job, when I worked at GT Wireless, there were only 3 models of phones in the world, or at least in Ohio. I don't know about the rest of the world. Now there were hundreds of models of phones. And now there were millions of customers instead of just a couple thousand. When I took the job, I thought, well, no problem. I've got a cellular telephone background. This should be no problem. Well, I had neglected to think about how much the industry had changed since I had been in cell phone business in 10 years. It had been 10 years since I had taken a call for cell phones. On these phones, you had to know all the operating systems. There wasn't just one operating system. We didn't have the iPhone yet, but there was the BlackBerry, and there was the new one that had just come out was Droid. And the Droid operating systems at the time were called like the Cupcake.
Yeah, they've got like the popcorn and the Oreo. And I think when it first came out, they had things like the Cupcake. Oh, Jesus, look at all these. The Lollipop, the Kit Kat, the Jelly Bean.
Apple pie, banana bread. Yeah, 2009, I'm right. August of 2008, they had the Coke. And so my point is that it had been a long time since I had worked in the cellular telephone company business or in telecom, and the entire industry had changed. So you've got Droid, Android, you've got got the iPhone, which we didn't have yet. You had Nokia phones, you had Motorola phones, you had the BlackBerry,
LGs, Samsungs, the LG Dare, you had the Palm. You had Samsung Eternity. You had all kinds of different versions of BlackBerry.
Calls from people on the phones saying, okay, my screen is frozen on this phone. Can you help me with it? And Verizon had given you what was called like an internal digital intranet troubleshooting guide on how to troubleshoot the different models of phones. But there was never an easy way to go into the system. They had a little search field where you typed in the name of the phone, but it never would bring up the type of phone you wanted. And when you finally found the phone after like 3 minutes, and you've got 4 minutes left to finish the call, you're trying to find screen is frozen. Oh, and then you try to find the menu. And then trying to tell somebody how to operate one of these over the telephone without ever having held the phone. And they're trying to read to them, like, okay, hit this button to get to the main menu and scroll down to settings. They're like, what's the main menu button? I don't know what the main menu button. You want me to hit my belly button? Yeah, I'm dumb as a box of rocks. Can you tell me how to do that again? And then you got 2 minutes left. And your supervisor runs over. Mr. Z bippity beepop. He'd be like, you've been on that call for 10 minutes there, Pete. What's going on with the phone? What's going on? I was listening. Why can't you help this person with their zippity bebop features? So it was a mess. It was a mess. And I think the worst thing, there's two things about this place where I'll never forget. The police, one day I showed up to work and there's 2 local Arizona, it was in Chandler, Arizona, 2 Chandler police squad cars parked in the very front of the building every single day for like 3 months. And I asked my supervisor, I said, why are the police out front? And nobody would tell me anything. The security guard, Barney Fife at the front, I don't know. I'm just here trying to see if my brain's going to grow. Woo-hee! What they didn't know. They wouldn't tell you anything. And it was apparent to me there had been threats. There must have been a threat against the call center. I talked to at least one man that threatened to blow up the call center. He knew where it was. He knew our address. Or it was a disgruntled employee, or maybe somebody was being threatened, like a ex-lover or something was threatening somebody. I don't know. No idea. The other thing about this call center that was so amazing is that the paramedics were there at least once a week. And I think they had a badge. They could badge you into the building. They'd always come up the back stairs. They didn't come through the main lobby. They came up the back stairs. I think they would come up the back stairs to kind of be less obvious because they were there so often. I'm surprised they just didn't give them like a Verizon Wireless security badge with a name and a picture on it and give them computer access. Give them a desk at the back of the room with their gurney. But I'll never forget this. They were always coming up the back stairs, pulling somebody out of there. A lot of people would literally drop and hit the floor. You hear like a boom. And you look over and say, oh, Sally just bit the dust. And then, see you see the paramedics coming in, and they're always taking people out, taking them out on the gurney or whatever you call it, the thing with the wheels and the bed and the oxygen and the IV bag and everything stuck in them. And the very last day I worked there, I was heading out for lunch, and I was going out the back door to go to lunch, and they were coming up the back steps. And I thought, thank God I'm leaving here. I don't even know how to put into words how bad this place was. It was maniacal. It was the most non-intuitive work environment I'd ever been in. It was filled with incompetent, incapable supervisors and incompetent human resources staff, horrible trainers. I don't know. The best thing I can say about Verizon Wireless is they have a tremendous network. I've very rarely get a drop call. I very rarely talk to people anymore on voice. But when I do, calls never drop. They have the greatest network across the country. And internally, when I was there, they had the best computer systems. They had the best internal computer systems. It was flawless. Perfect system. Great system. But outside of that, I have nothing good to say about it. It was an awful, 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 awful experience. Torturous, unfair, slanted. I was there for 2 years. We had 36 people when we started in my training class. By the time I left after 2 years, there were 3 people left. So they had lost like 97% of the class. So there you have it. There's my long-winded, that's my worst call center experience. I can't even, a lot of it I've literally blocked out of my mind. I can't even think about it. I really just feel ill thinking about what I experienced there and how poorly I was treated. If you like my videos, please give me the thumbs up. Subscribe, tell your friends about it, and give me some ideas if you have other ideas I could talk about when it comes to call centers. Bye.